The desert stretched endlessly in all directions, an ocean of sand where no waves rolled and no tide ebbed, only the ceaseless shifting of dunes under the breath of a dry, relentless wind. I had driven 2 days from the nearest settlement, following a trail barely visible on any map, driven by the sort of curiosity that has ruined men before me. The locals in the border town had warned me not to go east, never east. They whispered of lights seen at night far out in the dunes, moving in slow, sweeping arcs like the gaze of some colossal sentinel. They told me there was a tower there, a lighthouse without a sea, and that those who entered its light were never seen again. I dismissed these tales as rustic superstition at first. I was a man of reason, a researcher with an interest in anomalies, old ruins, and unexplained phenomena. The idea of a lighthouse hundreds of miles from the nearest shore was too bizarre to resist. In the desert, all should be darkness after sunset. So what was that light sweeping the sands? The first day's journey was uneventful, but by the second day, the air seemed heavier. My jeep's tires carved lines through fine, powdery sand that looked almost white in the afternoon sun. The wind came in sharp gusts, carrying grains that hissed against the metal of the vehicle like whispered words. By late afternoon I saw it. At first, I thought the heat had conjured some mirage, for the image seemed impossible. A tall, narrow tower of black stone, rising out of the dunes as if it had grown there rather than been built. Its form was unmistakable. A lighthouse, complete with a lantern room at the top, and something turning inside it. The sun was still in the sky, but faintly, I could see the beginnings of a beam, as though preparing itself for nightfall. I made camp a safe distance away, telling myself I would approach at dusk. The air cooled rapidly as the light drained from the desert, the shadows lengthening like dark rivers between the dunes. As the last trace of sunlight vanished, the tower came alive. The beam ignited, not yellow or white like a ship's light, but a pale, cold glow tinged faintly with green, as if it had passed through deep seawater before spilling into the desert air. It swept slowly, steadily over the dunes, disappearing into the night before circling back again. Every time it passed over the sand, the grains seemed to shimmer unnaturally, like the light was stirring them in some silent current. Then, as I watched, something moved at the edge of the beam. Figure. It stood motionless for a moment, then stepped forward into the light. The change was immediate and horrifying in its quietness. The figure froze mid-step, body stiffening as if caught in invisible ice. Its shape became vague, edges blurring like watercolor in rain. And then it was gone. Not in an instant, but fading over several seconds, until only a pile of clothing lay in the sand, the wind already beginning to fill it with grains. I told myself I hadn't seen what I thought I'd seen. My mind insisted it had to be a trick of the distance, the beam, and my eyes. Yet deep in my stomach, a chill rooted itself, cold and unshakable. I did not sleep much that night. The light kept sweeping, each pass somehow seeming a little closer to my camp. Sometimes I thought I heard faint, hollow noises carried on the wind, like the creak of timbers on an old ship, or the far-off ringing of a buoy bell. At dawn, the light shut off as if it had never been. The tower stood silent and inert in the morning glare, its stone dark and matte, absorbing the sun rather than reflecting it. I forced myself toward it. The sand grew strangely firm beneath my boots as I neared the base, packed down unnaturally flat for several dozen yards around the structure. The tower itself had no visible door, only a narrow set of stone steps spiraling up its outer wall. Against all logic, the stone felt damp beneath my touch, as though the desert heat could not reach it. A faint smell clung to the air here, salt, brine, and the faint musk of rotting seaweed. Climb the steps. The wind was sharper here, carrying faint sounds that made no sense, gulls crying, waves slapping against some distant shore that could not exist. The higher I went, the more oppressive the air became, until every breath felt like inhaling the bottom of a tide pool. At the top, I stepped into the lantern room. The great lens stood at the center, rotating slowly on its own, though there was no visible machinery driving it. Behind the glass was not a bulb, nor any recognizable source of light, but something like a swirling window into deep water. Shadows moved within, vast, slow-moving shapes that suggested a size and distance impossible to comprehend. I do not know how long I stared into that shifting aquatic darkness before a low sound rose from it, a deep, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate in my bones. The beam turned, casting its cold light out across the dunes, and for a moment, I felt it brush over me. The sensation was unlike anything I had known. My body seemed to lose its weight, my mind sliding toward a place that was not here, not this desert, not this world. I saw dimly towering spires of coral and stone, drifting shapes with eyes too large, colors I could not name. The hum deepened, becoming a voice without words, a call that bypassed my ears and spoke directly to the deepest parts of me. With effort, I tore myself from the beam and stumbled back. My hands shook, and I found the skin damp as though I had been pulled from water. My lungs ached with a pressure that did not belong to the dry air of the desert. I descended the steps without looking back, my mind reeling. I told myself I would leave, drive back to civilization, and never speak of this place again. But the tower's light swept the desert again that night, and I could not help but watch from my camp. This time there were more figures. They came from different directions, drawn from miles away perhaps, walking with slow, dreamlike steps. One by one they entered the beam. And one by one they faded, leaving behind only the empty shells of their clothes. The wind shifted once more, and with it came the undeniable sound of distant waves. That was the night I realized the truth. The lighthouse was not keeping watch for ships on a sea. It was not warning them away from danger. It was calling them, summoning them, across distances no human mind could chart. And the desert was only the surface of it. The real sea was somewhere beneath.